I am here with the one, the only, Danny G. Hello, Danny G.
The last time we tried to do a drunk interview, I passed out like an hour and a half before I got the ping, so it's about time we do this.
Wait. Is this gonna be a drunk interview?
It's a fucking Wednesday. Of course I've been drinking.
Nice.
Playing poker, and then Connor had to go to bed, so I just figured I'd join TeamSpeak, and then it's just might as well just turn in now.
Oh, why the name Danny G? What's the lore behind that?
So it's not my real name, right? There's an Xbox 360 clip of this guy from Britain talking about how he's gonna break someone's legs, and he's the actual Danny G. And I thought the voice clip was pretty funny. So that's my name in game. People always comment how it's weird how I have like an actual first name as my username, and that's not my real first name. And yeah, that was a funny voice clip of a British man threatening the life of someone else.
I actually did think that Danny was your first name and then your last name started with G, so you tricked me.
Is actually has nothing to do with my real name.
So you kind of sound like a Canadian lumberjack. Do you chop wood for a living?
Yes, actually, my full-time job is to just take an axe. There's legitimately a forest behind my house, and my only pastime besides hold fast nations at war melee is I just take an axe and I just go to town on this tree.
That
The
is
fact,
amazing.
honestly, people think that people in the Seven Foos say that I sound like the other Canadians. I actually think that that's a lot of discrimination against me. As a white man, I'm very discriminated against in my holdfast regiment because of the fact that I'm not from the United States of America. It's actually a tragedy.
Big tragedy. um, so when did you start playing Holdfast?
I found the game off of TikTok. So, like, unironically, I'm not even joking. I have
Oh,
500.
you're one of those people.
I am. So I was on my lunch break at my summer job at the time in August, and then I was just looking at TikTok during my lunch break, and I saw the Scottish man screaming inside of the arena, and I was like, "Wow, that game looks kind of fun." And since I guess I'm kind of interested in like history and shit, so then I bought the game, and then I was in a public server, and the two regiments recruiting were the First Battalion and the Seven Foos. So it was pretty much just 50-50. Thank God I made the right choice, man.
It was between the 7th Foos and the 51st?
No, the First Battalion.
The 1st Battalion. Is that the one that Wombat is in?
I think Wombat's in the 26th.
Oh, is he? I could have
I
sworn he was
think,
in the 1st Battalion.
whatever. I'm pretty sure they're just a pub regiment. They're just a meme, man.
So what made you join a regiment?
Um, well, there was, when I first got the game, I played pubs like a little bit, and it was kind of fun, but it kind of lost its luster really quickly. And then I joined a regiment because it said that it offered a more organized experience. And to be honest, the guy was very convincing. It was Hellraiser that recruited me. Man's an angel, man. He drives a truck. He's the salt of the earth. Um, and then I was kind of interested in a more organized play style. And that's how I joined the regiment. I got persuaded by line battles and I came to one. And at the time, I mean, I wasn't really doing anything at 8.
How long were you playing Holdfast before you got recruited?
I'm pretty sure I got recruited like the day that I bought the game. Like I bought the game August 15th was the day that I joined this. I just recently checked the sheets. August 15th was the day that I joined the regiment, and I'm pretty sure I got the game like a day before that. Because I played it for like a little bit and then I had to go to bed because I worked at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Uh and then, I just loaded back up and Hellraiser was recruiting and I figured I'd give it a shot. And now I'm here doing an interview at 1 o'clock in the morning, Wednesday or Thursday.
Amazing. It's actually Friday now.
Wait, for real?
Are you Eastern time?
Yes, I'm Eastern time. We live in the same province, I think.
Yeah, it's Friday.
Let's go.
Um, so you were snatched up pretty quickly then. Do you think that like players should play around a bit more on the public servers before getting gobbled up by a regiment?
Honestly, man, like there's the whole J-Rod meme, but like pubs are really not that interesting. I think that like the bulk of the reason that people play this game is for regiments. Because like when you play in a pub server, you're not really like you're not what's the word I'm looking for? You're not really like meeting you're not like developing the connections, right? So when you join a regiment, like you're talking to the same people, so you get to know those people. But when you're in a pub, you're just kind of dicking around and not doing anything. So I think that like playing pubs is obviously part of the and it's interesting because like I'm really a big advocate of the VoIP system. I think it adds a lot of flavor to the game, right? So pubs is a lot of interest for like the first beginning of the game, and then at that point it's like the large majority of like the pull for this game is like joining a regiment. Like I talked to the people in the Seven Foos, and like a lot of the like the stories, a lot of the stories are like, yeah, I played the game for like 5 to 10 hours and then I forgot about it for like a couple months, and then I joined the regiment, and then I had like 1,000 hours in the game. So I really think that like sure pubs is fun and we do it for like farming and shit to be like the number one whatever faction we are regiment. But like ultimately like the main pull of the game, all the competitive shit and all the stuff that ends up keeping you for the game is based around like the regiments.
You definitely see like pubs as something you eventually need to graduate from.
Yeah, like pubs, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with playing pubs, but like it gets kind of boring after a couple of hours. And like the more structured regimental stuff is really what keeps people going. Because at the end of the day, while something like Melee might be fun, majority of the people are playing this game for the community. They're not playing this game for the actual game.
I have heard that said a lot. Um, like you, if it wasn't for Holdfast, like they still play with the same people, but for like with other games and stuff, right? So it's more of like the community atmosphere.
Yeah, it's definitely like for me personally. The only thing that I actually like I guess enjoy about the actual like game, like if I had to deafen and be by myself playing something, the only thing that I actually enjoy, I guess, would be like group fighting. And even then, it's so much better when you play with like other people. Like just strictly for example, like the Seven Foos, like our Cav people, are the one like I'm in Cav, right? They're the people that like I actually enjoy playing with, and then like not so much like the 13-year-olds, but like the older people in the melee community are people that I enjoy like talking to and interacting with, and ultimately that's really what keeps me toward the game. And I think a lot of people agree with me in saying that the community is a much larger factor of the game than the actual game itself.
You mentioned melee. Do you remember like sort of what your initial like melee experience was, and what sort of like got the spark in you going that hey, like maybe melee is something that I can focus on and get good at?
Yeah, so I first like realized that Melee was a thing when I was just spectating Reddish. This was in November, I think. Um so I was just watching Reddish just shit all over people in all charge, and I was like, you know, that'd be kind of cool to do. And then I did like and then I was just kind of dicking around. I was very new to the game at this point, so I was still one of those I was still one of those people who had no fucking idea what they were doing. Like I had a basic concept of like up and down blocking, but other than that, I was just lost, just absolutely lost.
People in here. Huh?
Hello, Edward. Um, so then I was spectating Reddish, and he was doing these spin moves and like this shit, and I was like, wow, that's crazy, man. And then I did 100 1v1s with Reddish, and I decided that this shit was fucking stupid, and that I never like wanted to care to get good at it, right? So then along So then, like through the process of like, I guess like 2 or 3 months, I just kind of like through naturally playing the game, I get hi VG. I through like naturally playing the game, I kind of got like I got to the point where like I could at least block. And then at that point, Ontario was in its second lockdown, so I had a lot of fucking free time. So I was like, all right, you know what? I might as well like attempt to get good at Melee. So really, the thing that ignited the first spark of Melee was Reddish. Right? He showed me the light, and then I ignored it, and then eventually by process of playing the game, I slowly learned how to block, and then here I am as a B tier group fighter.
There you are. Um, so what was like sort of your first experiences with group fighting? Um, and like what about like the positions and stuff? Did
My
you like
first
yeah.
my first experience with group fighting was I think our RGL match against the KRA, where I went 1-8. Um, and I think I started so basically I still was not like I was not good at the game. I'm still like just all right. But at this point I was really not good at the game. Like I could block at like a very basic level, right? And I think I started out in mid and I was just absolutely mind flooded. Like there was way too much shit going on at this point. Like I could not understand anything. It's honestly, it's a mirror. Yo, what the fuck, man? We got the whole gang here. Green Dead server muted. So, I could not understand what was going on, and I was just getting shit on. Right, this was an RGL match, so it actually mattered, and it was my first fucking group fight. Right, I had like 20 hours in Melee at that point. So at the beginning, I kind of hated it. And my main reason to play the game was because I had nothing better to do. Right? This was in the middle of Ontario's like second lockdown. So I was laid off. Um, so yeah, I showed up to the group fight. And then apparently, like Los told me that I actually was doing good, and I thought that he was lying. Um, because main, so I think I don't remember, but I think I was playing flank because my thought process was on the flank, I only need to worry about two people. And at the beginning, I was in mid where I needed to worry about like three people. So it's like 30% more mental effort. So yeah, my first and then my second experience of group fighting was another RGL match against somebody. I can't remember. I think it might have been the 45E. It was bad. Like again, I was very far into the negative, but I persevered and now I can go positive.
So you would say that Reddish was your mentor when it came to Melee then?
Reddish was the shepherd who guided me through the darkness into the light. Like the story from the Bible where there's like the guy with the shepherd and then he has the one lost sheep. Like I was the lost sheep and Reddish was the shepherd who guided like the 99 seven Foos enlisted members to go and carry me into the valley of the righteous.
So I have to ask then, why isn't the Shepherd running the Melee trainings? Why is Danny G running the Melee trainings?
Because I'm louder than he is. That's pretty much like the answer, right? So Reddish is like I mean like when I say this, I mean absolutely zero disrespect to Reddish. Like nothing. There's no ill will, but like he doesn't talk a whole lot, right? He's a quiet. In terms of like regimental, I don't know what the fuck this guy's like in real life. I'm sure he's a cool dude, but he doesn't talk a whole lot. Like he'll speak when spoken to, but he doesn't talk a whole lot. I'm loud, right? So like I'm loud and I have like kind of a I'm trying to think of the correct word here. Like I project myself in a manner in which people think that I know what yo man, what the fuck is this? Who is Zero? All right, whatever. Like I project myself in a manner where people are like, "Yo, this is the guy," and this is available for anybody.
Who the fuck is Zero?
Hold on. What? How are people getting what?
Yo, so like I guess the reason like I was doing the melee trainings is like like I'm not the best player, right? But like I know the theory behind stuff, and Reddish isn't like a very vocal person, right? So I guess in my defense, I asked if anyone had anything to add, and he didn't add anything. Why can people join this?
Hold on. I'll fix it. Hold on.
I would say that you have a very commanding voice, like a sergeant's voice.
Yo, I can talk. Yo, I can talk.
Yes. Yeah, so I would say you have a very commanding voice, like sort of like a sergeant. Um, so I suppose people are naturally inclined to listen to you. Would you say that's the case?
I I I don't want to mount my high horse here. Is the situation. So like I don't think people are naturally inclined to listen to me, but like people will hear my voice and be like, "Yo, that guy's got something to say." Like I'll give him a shot, and then they give me a shot, and then I say something, and they're like, "Yo, like this guy just said something, and he's got like he knows what the word is." And then I say it, and then they're like, "Yo, you following?"
When did you start noticing like that was a thing? I'm guessing it was before like today's training, right?
Um, I don't know. I was like, I got promoted to officer like, I think like a month ago. It's like either a month or 3 weeks ago. Um, I don't know. Like what I've noticed is like the people that like I lead, they like. I mean, granted, it's because I've known them for I guess a couple months now. They're just like kind of playing with them, but like the other thing is that I'm very loud, right? So people are naturally inclined to listen to people who shout over them. So if someone like interrupts me, I will simply just yell louder than they do. And then it's just like a matter of that. So the thing is like while I might not be the greatest melee citizen, I have like the theory down pat. And the other matter is the people that I'm teaching are like, no offense to anybody, but they're not the most advanced. So when I explain to them what an up down is, they're like, yo, that's like hieroglyphics.
um, I actually want to talk about your rise through the ranks. So what do you think like the Seven Foos officers and NCOs like noticed about you that was different than the other members?
I just kind of like I get along with people. Like it's just pretty simple thing. Like I'm not bad. I've been in almost every detachment. Like I went from line to skirmishers to cavalry. So I think they notice that I think like I'm like first of all is like I'm competent. Like I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. Like there's nothing special about me when it comes to leading. Like there is people who are more intelligent than I am, but like I get along with people, right? I make sure that they do what they're supposed to. I'd like to believe personally that I got to pin erect real quick. I like people do what they're supposed to, and like people like in the cavalry detach like the people that I play with, like they respect my opinion as like a fellow member of the team. So I think that they noticed that first of all, I was at least semi competent, and B that it was either me or nobody else. So at that point, it was better than nothing. That honestly, that's the easiest way to be promoted is that it's either you or nobody else. And that's my advice to anybody.
Would you say that like you getting noticed was a gradual thing, or was there like a moment where people were like, "Oh, whoa, like this is Danny G"?
I think it was a gradual thing. Because I mean it's the same as like it's pretty much the same as like I guess befriending someone. Like it's a not really necessarily a slow process, but like you get to know people over a span of time, and you necessarily you like you understand who they are, like their psyche, right? So over the period of a couple months, you realize who someone is, and then you're like, yo, this person is like a dude, and then you start to learn like their mental, right? And then after that, you start to understand you start to understand like, oh, I can trust this guy, and like he's not that bad. What was the question again?
I think just talking about like how you got noticed, um, and how that kind of came to be, like when you're like rise to the ranks, promotions and stuff.
Yeah, so basically, the process of how I got to even leading in the first, so uh, just like a quick, like very quick rundown is like I was promoted at the same time as the other guy who is also named Danny in the regiment. He had prior, basically, what happened is that both the officers were on leave. They had like some real life shit and they couldn't attend events, so the two of us were leading, and the detachment was doing pretty well. So I think when the two officers were on leave because they were busy, I think that's the moment when they decided that I was like I was a legitimate candidate to be promoted, because before then like we didn't need another officer. Like I was someone who could handle it when like they died and I needed to like shepherd the horses through the valley of darkness. um, but other than that, I think it was a very like gradual process of like getting in some practice, because I people knew who I was, right? But like my leadership ability like began to protrude when I was given the chance.
Cool. Who would you say like some of your early friends were in the regiment?
Um, hmm. Uh, Probably one of the earliest was Mathers. He's gone now. Uh, Never to be heard of again. He's gone. A lot of the actually like a lot of the Canadian guys, pretty much like Jev. I like Jev. I think we have a lot in common, including being. Hold on, wait. What was I gonna say? I like Jev. I think we get along pretty well because we're both bad people. Um, uh, who else was early on? The other Italian guy. A lot of my early friends were based off of ethnicity. Uh, Yeah, so there was the other Italian guy in the regiment. I'd like to think I got off on the right foot with Jev. A lot of the people that are currently in our cavalry detachment, of which I am an officer, I think were some of the early people that I got along with. But really, like I think I got along with everybody early off. Like I'm a pretty sociable guy. I'd like to think, which sounds like a stupid thing to say given the fact that I'm a hold fast nations at war player. But overall, like I get along with people. I like talking to people, so I think it worked in my favor when I was trying to make friends early on in my regimental days.
You weren't like looking at it from a political standpoint, like oh, like if I get close with this guy, then I can get this rank and that rank. And you weren't like you weren't in that mentality at all.
No, I honestly like it was just a game. Especially since when I started playing this game, I was working full time. It was just kind of something that it was just kind of something that like when I wasn't because at the time, like usually I was busy on the weekends at night. So it was just kind of something that like after work I could kind of unwind and just play this game and relax with some people when I wasn't doing anything. So I didn't really care about rank. Honestly, like if we're being realistic, like the only ranks that kind of matter, there's like three tiers of ranks that matter. You're either enlisted, you're an NCO, or you're a CO. So really, like it's a video game. Like I think being an officer is kind of neat. Like you get I don't know. It's kind of cool for the sake of like being able to be like the guy. Um, but overall, it's just a video game. It's kind of neat. It's kind of fun. So yeah, I think yeah.
So what is it about being an officer that you like? Because I imagine like there might be some administrative stuff that's a bit tedious. So what are sort of like the highlights of being an officer?
I don't mind leading. I think it's kind of neat, being able to communicate. It's actually kind of like we use like using our commander channel to like coordinate stuff. I actually think it's pretty neat when stuff kind of pans out because like I can talk to like the guys that I'm playing with, and then at the same time on like a different thing I can talk to like a line leader, and we can be like, yo, let's push this thing, and then we push the thing and we kill a bunch of people. In the game, of course, murder is wrong. um and then it's kind of cool when you do that. um the administrative stuff, it's really not that I know like other regiments like count kills and stuff, and like I've seen the sheets for that, and honestly that looks like kind of tedious, but like the administrative stuff we do, like we take attendance, which is just typing the number 1 into a box. So like taking attendance takes a grand total of like 30 seconds. On a slow day it'll take 45 seconds. I don't know. I think it's kind of neat to be involved. The other thing is that like I'm a business student, so I'm naturally inclined to gravitate towards spreadsheets. So when I get a chance to use a spreadsheet, I'm like, yo, that's kind of dope. So yeah, I like it's pretty cool, yeah.
Pretty awesome. Um, are you one of those spreadsheet guys that are just in it for the numbers, or do you like making things look pretty?
Honestly, like Microsoft Excel is there's so much cool shit you can do on Excel. Um I almost failed my final for the class that I was in because what am I talking about? Um so Yeah, I think that like stuff looking pretty is like kind of the cherry on the cake, right? But if you have all like the bread and butter, like for our spreadsheets, like I'm not gonna lie, like Jev might be the goat. Like this stuff looks super neat. I'd show you, but I'm not supposed to. It looks super neat. There's like formulas and shit everywhere. Like honestly, like Jev, on the off chance you listen to this, like bro, you are the goat. Like everything is properly formatted. It's color coordinated. Like there's formulas that do everything for you. Um I honestly can't remember what I was talking about, but yeah, like both, honestly. Yeah.
Um, so I want to talk a bit about the two head honchos of the regiment, Jev and Los. Um, what different responsibilities do they have, and how are they different from one another?
Honestly, the la- the last time that I talked about this, honestly, I don't really know because I'm not really involved in that. But Jev is more vocal, so he's kind of like he's the mouthpiece. The last time that I talked about this, I said that Jev was House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and Los was like the government. I don't know how accurate of a comparison that is, but Jev thought it was really funny. So yeah, I think that from my understanding, they're like Scotty and Pippin. Like they're equal parts, and then they like administer and they like format and they do stuff. Um, I know that like Los does all of our competitive scheduling, but overall, they're both just like a couple of dudes just running a regiment, you know?
Did anyone fill you in on like sort of the history of the Seven Foos, or do you just kind of not look into the past?
You know what? The first time someone told me that the regiment was formed because somebody's dog died, I thought it was a joke. Um, and then they actually informed me of like what the 49th was and how like unironically like the Mershon's dog dying was literally the reason that this regiment formed. I thought it was kind of funny. I'd like to clarify that by saying that someone's dog dying is a tragedy and in itself is not inherently funny. But the fact that, like, one random ass day I found a TikTok and then downloaded a game and then all of a sudden I was learning about how some random dude who I've never met's dog died, and that's the reason why I was joining what I was. So yeah, it's just kind of like from the old 49th members, just kind of fed like inside jokes, and then I would ask like, what is like, I'd ask them to like explain it, and then that's how I learned of like the dead dog, which which formed.
Dead dog. Oh my god.
It's so fucked up, man. The fact that I'm laughing at that. But that's how I learned about who Mershon was. And then there's somebody has like a quote wall full of like stuff Mershon said about like personal betrayal. Anyway, I thought it was really funny. But yeah, eventually one day, and then we also made like kind of like a family tree about how where everyone came from and who's a byproduct of which members. So that also helped fill me in on like the lore of the lore on how like the 49th split from the 63E, which then formed the 7 Foos. So yeah, I'd say that it was at the beginning. It's like any inside joke. At the beginning, you got no idea what the fuck's going on, and then you ask them what's happening, and then you get an explanation, and then you're like, "Yo, that's kind of cool." So that's how I came to learn about how Mershon's dog died. May he rest in peace, Mershon. If you're listening to this, I'm sorry that that had to happen to you.
So at no point did you feel like any of the officers were like hiding stuff from you about the
Oh,
past?
I feel like there's nothing really to hide. The first issue on why they'd have nothing to hide is I really don't care. Um, there's like there's very little that they could have done that would cause a like moral dilemma that would have to cause me to leave. Um, so I don't feel like they were hiding anything. If they are hiding anything, they've done an incredibly good job because I don't suspect a thing. But yeah, I feel like the history of it is more treated as like I guess a joke. Like people joke around about it a lot. It's funny because like not a lot of the old 49th guys are around anymore, so the jokes just kind of go over everybody's head, and it's gotten to the point where like there's so few people that understand it that they've just kind of stopped being funny except for when they explain it. And you know, when you do explain a joke about how it's hard to explain to somebody how Mershon's dog dying is funny because that's a tragedy. So I'm kind of off topic here, and I feel like I have no justification for what I just said.
Worry about it. I kind of want to talk about the Filipino torpedo, VG. Um, what are the earliest memories you have of him, meeting him and stuff?
I remember the first memory I ever had from him was him joining as a Fusilier, and I had absolutely no idea who he was. So I was like, why does this I was like mildly curious. I was like, why does this guy start as a Fusilier? Um and then that was the first memory I had of him, right? I don't think I started talking to him. I can't remember when we started talking to each other, to be honest. Um, yeah, I have no memory of when we started, but we just have this kind of like we just have this like melee chemistry, right? There's the dynamic of I only downstab and he only upstabs, and we like playing similar positions in a group fight. So I think it had to be like again, I don't remember exact dates, but it had to be like a couple of months, like maybe 2 months ago, that we just kind of clicked. And it was like when we realized that we had this like melee chemistry, like we had the dynamic duo, like we do opposite stabs. We're both Canadian, right? So we just kind of clicked and we're just the dynamic duo, right? We are not denied in mid. We simply win.
Now, it's a really interesting dynamic with Melee and the Seven Foos because you have like three Melee kings, right? You have Reddish, you have Sin, you have Brad, who are like the undisputed goats of the Melee in the Seven Foos, right? But then you have Danny G and VG running all the Melee stuff. So how did that sort of come to be?
Me and VG, like I said earlier, me and VG are loud. right? Well, we might not be we might not have this like the skills down pat that we teach. Well, first of all, Sin is kind of like he's busy with shit, so he doesn't really have time to run trainings. He did when he was an officer. Brad is MIA, and Reddish is just he's kind of quiet, like I said before. So we have like we have an understanding of the concepts, right? But we still have some developing to do. So we like it's the like I said before, like we know like in our heads we know what is correct, but we just like sometimes have trouble executing it. Like we both, I like to believe that we're a pretty similar skill level. Right, I don't think there's too far of a gap between us, right? So we both know how, like, we know how to, like, the shit that I was teaching today. We both know how to do it. It's just sometimes we mess up the execution. If you give us like a couple more, like a couple hundred more hours, I know that sounds like a lot to ask, but like, I guess in this kind of game, you give us like a couple hundred more hours, I think we can reach our peak levels and we're going to be incredible. Or maybe at least. I don't know how it's going to go. But I both think we have a lot of potential, and we know what to do. So we pass off the knowledge. A good analogy, um, I like when I play hockey. My dad has a lot of feedback, right? Because he tells me like what I did wrong and how I can improve. But my dad can't skate, so if you apply similar ideas, how not a lot of commentators for sports games are like elite level at that sport. Like when I'm sitting on my couch watching football, I can point out what someone did wrong, but if you make me play cornerback in the fucking NFL, of course I'm gonna fuck up. I can't remember how I started making this analogy, but yeah, that's the gist is like the two of us, like we're I'd say we're on the higher level of intermediate. Maybe I'm being a little biased here, but I think we're pretty good players. We know what to do. We just make some mistakes in execution. So I think we like to pass along the ideas of what we've learned to the youngins and have them develop.
Uh, Now I actually used to be in a Seven Foos in 2019 for 3 months. Now back then, Sin was a lot more active. I believe Brad was a lot more active too, and it was mainly Los that was running like all the competitive stuff and the trainings and everything. So why has Los kind of taken a step back and let you two sort of lead the charge when it comes to the competitive side?
Um, when I say this, I mean absolutely no disrespect to Los. None whatsoever. I love Los. He's a great guy, but he stopped practicing. Obviously, like he still has. I don't want to say he's washed because that's kind of disrespectful, and like Los is like my guy, but he stopped practicing. And again, no disrespect whatsoever, but he's past his prime, and we're kind of on the come up. So Los, he still obviously has those. He has those ideas. He still knows what to do. Obviously he's not a bad player, but people like me and VG we're still developing, and we attend, like me and VG regularly attend pickups, so we are regularly playing with like elite level players, like someone like Adam. He hosts pickups, so he's always there. So we get to learn tactics firsthand from players like Adam, and Matt Bob's there frequently. High level players like Equal, Power, people like them. Just for example, I'm not gonna name everybody. Verb's typing right now. Verb. We get to learn firsthand from players like those about like strategies and shit. That Los kind of he just has like bigger fish to fry at this point, and we have more time for melee. So we're learning and we're adapting to what's newer, and that's I think why. The other thing is like it's just one thing that Los doesn't have to do. Like it's just a convenience for him. Like we're doing something so he has like an hour free. Like he's got shit to do, man. He's got a job and a girlfriend. He doesn't have time for melee trainings and shit. So yeah, I think that's why we've kind of taken up the burden.
What's going on with Jev? Why doesn't Jev do any melee stuff?
He doesn't care. Like we tried to get him to join the Canada team. Um, Melee just isn't something that's interesting to him at this point. Um, I think I've asked him about it, and he just says that it's just simply not something that he enjoys. And it can be frustrating at times, so I don't really blame him. He's more into. I mean, he does a lot of administrative stuff. Him and Los do a lot of administrative stuff for the seven. They do all the boring shit. Like he goes through and he updates like our roster and shit, which takes like hours. And to be frank, it's just something that we're all very grateful he does because it's just boring as fuck. Um, so he's already got his hands tied with a bunch of administrative stuff. Um, he handles like Jeff handles a lot of the like the regimental stuff. He coordinates shit. So he just he just doesn't he's not interested in melee anymore. It's just kind of the thing. Believe
Okay.
me, I've tried to get him back, but it's just not his thing.
So what are some of the like the short-term plans and the long-term plans you have when it comes to like Seven Foos and group fighting?
Well, our our long-term plans are to develop our up and coming guys. Like you have like me and VG are very good examples of people who have stuck around through getting shit on. Like our first group, like my first group fights I was very far negative, like 1-8, like 2-17. Same with VG, like when he was newer to group fighting. Who's pinging me? Um, when he was newer to group fighting, we're two players who stuck around and we got better at the game, and now we're what I'd like to believe are key pieces of our A team. So our long term plans are to stick with our guys that have potential. Just to name off a couple, Charmy and a couple other people. He's just the key piece in my mind. Just a couple people have a lot of potential. So we're trying to instill the drive to get better at them because they have like I've said like the past four times because I can't think of a sentence to say. They have a lot of potential, but they just need practice and they need to develop. So I think that come RGL, we're going to have an incredibly strong team. If we have our guys and if we do weekly group fights, whether it be internal or against other regiments, I think that through that we'll have our guys develop to the point where they're going to be very strong players who can hold their own. Short term, um, I think the short term plan is to shove melee down everyone's throat so that they'll start to care about it. So that long term, they will start attending melee server pickups and they'll start doing more melee trainings. They'll start practicing on wraiths so that come RGO, which will be in a couple of months, there'll be stronger players who are able to hold their own and we'll have an incredibly strong team. So long as because we have a lot of guys with a lot of potential, right? I've noticed even in our 45E group fight, we got fucking smacked. It was 15-4, right? But I still noticed that there were things that people were doing right. And I think that if those players continue to develop and they continue to basically, if they have the same drive that me and VG had, the drive to get better and the actual like ability to care, I think that we'll have a very strong team come RGL.
Um, what was I gonna say? Were you around during the time that the Seven Foos almost merged with the 4070?
Yeah, I was incredibly new back then. I think it was actually like some of my when I first joined, and honestly, like I had no idea what the fuck was going on. Um, Like I was just meeting all these people from the Seven Foos, and then they're telling me that we're gonna merge with another regiment, a bunch of people that I don't even know. Um, so I voted no for the merge just because honestly I didn't see what's wrong with what I had now. I just met all these people. It just seems like it was a pain in the ass. So I was around for it. I played Jackbox with a couple of 47E guys. I think Highlander's a cool dude. I think Amit's a cool dude. Um, 47E is a lot of cool people, but honestly, like it administratively, if we actually did merge, it'd be a pain in the ass because, like, first of all, the Seven Foos brings like 60 people to an NA event, and if you add, we don't go any events that the 47E goes to, but if you add, what's their attendance, like 20 to 30? If you add like 20 to 30 onto that, it's just a pain in the ass for admins. So I think that I was around, but I don't really have much of a developed opinion because I was brand new when it happened.
Now, one thing that almost came out of that merger was a pretty competent melee team. Um, do you think that it would be a good thing for the Seven Foos to merge with like maybe a smaller regiment, like the NR39, for example, so the melee roster is bolstered up a little bit more?
I mean, I certainly wouldn't complain about Fires and Green Dan being on our competitive team, but I think that the Seven Foos isn't the most. We're not on the most competitive side of things. Like we're, if I had to describe us, we'd be we'd lean more on the casual side of things. While we have a pretty strong competitive side for people who are interested. Like we have plenty of strong melee players, but I think that more in actual NA events, we're more focused on just people having fun and enjoying the game than we are strictly on performance. So I don't think that there's, again, I'm not part of the high command, so I can't like pass on anything concrete, but I don't think that we're really looking for mergers at the moment. But again, I don't know anything about this. So.
Okay. Um, what can we talk about now? You said you were part of CAV, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, CAV is something that I don't know anything about. So, for a complete scrub like me, how would you describe CAV in its current state?
Cavalry is a lot of running into people and then bitching about rule breaks. Naturally, I'm a complainer, so I thrive in this kind of environment. Um, but yeah, it's funny because I'm trying to get Sin to join our Cav. Honestly, I think it'd be funny if we just had a bunch of group, like it kind of low key. It'd be like a tragedy if we just had a bunch of good melee players who would never ever make it to all charge. Um, but Cavalry in its current state, I think it's interesting. It adds like a dynamic of like if you see the horses and then you shoot at a line, you're gonna get just fucked by a bunch of sabers. I think it definitely adds in it adds an element of like surprise because with I've noticed that like in events without cavalry, I'm not just saying this because I'm in the cavalry detachment, but like events without cavalry are boring because people just sit behind a hill and nothing happens. Like I know that you're not really interested in line battles and shit, but cavalry adds like a fast dynamic how there's like a group that could charge through you and completely put you in disarray in an instant if you don't time your ship properly. So I think that also it's just kind of more fun than line. Like at this point, I have like 550 hours in this game. I think that playing line's just kind of boring. You're just standing behind a hill waiting for some other guy to do something. So being able to play cavalry and be like fast paced and charging shit constantly and using my head, I think is more interesting than just sitting behind a hill and waiting for other dudes to get out in the open so you can shoot them.
That's sort of why I like melee a lot more than line battles, is because like if someone's gonna kill me, like they need to pull up, right?
Yeah,
So,
facts, man.
um, now a complete change of subject, but I'm going through like the Seven Foos Discord and one name popped up. Now I actually, before I joined the Seven Foos, like I had no idea who this person is, but they seem to be quite a character within the Seven Foos that, um, might I say, is a bit controversial as well. Um, his name is Sup. Um, it seems that everyone always has something to say about him, and he always has something to say about other people. So, what's his deal?
He doesn't have permission to use external emojis. I don't want to talk shit about the guy. I like the guy. He's in the cavalry detachment. He's someone that I enjoy talk. Wait, I I'm trying to think of a way to explain this. So hold up. So he's wait. Okay, he's a cool guy. He sends too many gifts and too many troll faces, right? So I like him, but like in general, I like no more troll faces, man. I don't think he's gonna watch this, but in case he does, sup, man, just stop sending troll faces, man. It's not funny. But yeah, I don't really want to talk shit about people because at the end of the day, it's an internet, and I don't really care. But yeah, he's a cool guy. He's in our cavalry detachment. He stacks bodies. Um, but yeah, he doesn't have external emoji perms because he sent too many troll faces, and I think that's kind of funny.
He's a good guy though. Nothing bad about him.
Yeah, man, I got no complaints about him.
Cool, cool. Um, Now someone that actually owned their own Melee server, I'm not sure if they do anymore, but Gray. It seemed to me that Gray was like an up and comer and who was taking Melee very seriously, and they kind of seem to have he kind of seems to have like dieted down lately. I don't know if I'm just feeling that or if you're feeling that as well. But yeah, what's the deal with Gray when it comes to Melee?
Gray, he, I think he has, so he's really into competitive Team Fortress 2. And so most of our group fights are on Fridays, and his competitive TF2 schedule is also on Fridays. So just kind of through a natural clash of schedule. I think they're in the finals for some sort of tournament. I don't really follow TF2 to be honest. It's just I've never played the game. Well, I've played it for like 2 hours. Um, so he just kind of has some schedule conflicts. Like he's busy on a lot of Fridays. He's got other stuff to do. Um, but yeah, he's still a great melee player. He is the founder of Downstab Gaming, right? I just bought the license off of him. So he's a player that again has a lot of potential. He's a good group fighter. He frags out, but he just has schedule conflicts that kind of prevent him from coming to our group fights. He just has like his TF2 schedule is kind of booked.
Okay. Um, One person that actually Jev praised a lot in his interview was Bluetooth. And before Jev mentioned him, like I don't think I've ever heard of Bluetooth. I don't think he's involved in the melee scene at all. So yeah, what's the deal with Bluetooth? What does he do, and why isn't he involved in melee?
He is a CEO of one of our line. He's the captain of one of our line companies. Um, he's a great guy, salt of the earth again. He's part Italian, which is why I like him. Um, he isn't really involved in melee because I think it's just something that aggravates him. Right, he's Polish Italian, so there's already a reason to have a very short temper, and stack something on top of melee. Again, melee is something that, in my opinion, is kind of hard to get into because when you play a game like Call of Duty or a game like Valorant or Counter Strike, when you first start playing any game, you're a shitter, right? So you first start playing a game like that, and something that has enough players to have a skill-based matchmaking system to where you're against other shitters. So you can develop your basic skills against players who are at your skill level. So it's easy to get into a game like that because as you get better, you start playing people on your own skill level. A game like Holdfast, the vast majority of the people who regularly melee and who are regularly on melee servers are people who are at the higher end of the skill level. Um, so if you're a newer player, you're just going to get shit on. And it takes a lot of perseverance and frankly a lot of free time to get through the getting shit on part of melee. So honestly, I don't blame people who aren't interested in melee beyond a very basic level because it is hard to get through the phase where you're just constantly just getting killed and you just don't know how to block. It's hard to get through that Because again, like my first experience with Melee was dueling Reddish, and that was fucking brutal. So to have someone, so if some when someone comes to me and they say I'm not interested in Melee because I just don't like getting shit on, it's hard to tell them, oh, it's fine. You just have to put 500 hours into the game and then you'll be good because it's a very large time commitment. So yeah, to people like him who aren't interested in Melee, um, to them I say God bless because they have things that are more important to worry about.
That is true. Yeah, we don't have like a lobby where you can like queue to join or something like League of Legends, right? It's pretty much you join rates and whatever happens, happens, I guess.
Yeah, my first Melee experience, I did 100 duels with Reddish. It
Oh
was
dear.
not fun. I recently just I went to send him a DM and I saw DMs from like November, um, saying like, okay, like exactly what I said was like 100 duels. What do you think I did wrong? And it's like, holy fuck, man! Like even now, after I've been developing and I'm not a shitter anymore, or I'm not an absolute shitter anymore, I wouldn't even. I don't know how I even handled 100 duels with Reddish back before I could even block.
Um, I actually want to talk about your recent tourney, the what was it? Leaderboard, May leaderboard that just happened a few days ago. Was that your first tournament?
Hey, bro. My dog was on my computer. I actually was in. I was out of town that day. What's some other excuses? I got drafted in the war. I was sick. I had a dentist appointment. No, my
Seems
first
to me that you. No, yeah, go on, go on.
my first tournament was the restricted one you had in March. I lost 10-8 to Johnny.
Okay, not too
But
bad.
no, that was that was my second tournament where I got 6-0'd by Patty.
So, what went wrong?
I have no excuse. Patty is better than I am at this game. Like there's I like I was thinking of an excuse. Like I was gonna say, oh, the server's bad. I was gonna say this. I was gonna say that. He is better than I am at this game. Um, so the other thing is like now I will make excuses. I at this point I'm just like in my opinion I have more potential as a group fighter than I do as a duelist. So I'm focusing more of my efforts on learning how to group fight as opposed to learning how to duel. So I'm gonna do equals restricted tournament that he has coming up, and then I'm pretty much gonna take a little break from dueling. But yeah, I don't have a lot of my offense is very gamble heavy, and in tournaments people don't really let you gamble them. Like a lot of the reason that I lost to Johnny was because I started down 5-0 because I just kept trying to gamble him, and he wasn't a moron and he just killed me. And I tried to gamble Patty, and he was just ready for it. He had those 180 blocks. But yeah, Patty's just he's just better than I am, and he just beat me just fair and square. There's nothing I could have done. I don't have a very complex offense. I'll throw in a basic crouch spin, but other than that, it just involves a lot of basic concepts with like a lot of gambles mixed in, and he was just ready for it, and he just smoked me.
Now I hope that's not the last of Danny G in tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not completely giving up on it, but I'm going to take some time to develop my offense. There's also the matter of if I do get demoted to low tier, I think it'd be really funny as like when I actually do get good at doing, when I can just kind of throw insert you lost to this low tier every time I kill somebody. But yeah, it won't be the last of me, but I'm going to take some more time to develop. And when I'm better, I will come back.
Good to hear. You have a good attitude, taking it on the chin and coming back stronger. That's the attitude to have when it comes to melee. Because
You know, it's hard. It's hard to sit there and be like, "Yo, I just got 6-0'd by a 13-year-old." Um, but yeah, shit happens.
another member on the melee roster. I don't know how consistently active he's gonna be, but Benny. He was at the training today, I believe, or he was at the little 3v3s we did afterwards. Um, he actually knows what he's doing, and he's pretty solid. Um, are you hoping that he's active in our group fights?
Uh, the reason he didn't come to the 45E group right was quote because VG did not ask him to go. Um, so yeah, I'm hoping that he. Today's his birthday actually. So if you're listening to this, tell Benny happy birthday. Um, so he's yeah. From my understanding, in 2019, he was an incredible player. Because that's when he actually took it seriously. And even then, he still has that kind of like even when a player's washed, they still have that kind of legacy skill, right? Where they still know what to do and they were good at some point. Um, so yeah, he still has. He came to I think his last group fight was against the his last group fight was our second against the NR39. He was matched up against you. Um, and our main it was him and me. And our main goal was to just contain you. And then before that, his last group fight was against the 63E B team, when him and me just held W through their flank and just ruined half of them. But yeah, he's an incredibly if he puts the time in and if he shows up, he can be unwashed and he'll be a fantastic player again. Like he's the reason why I had to stop the training and do more 2v1 drills because people he was just winning 3v1s. But yeah, he's a great player. He has a lot of it's I'm trying to think of the right word to say here because I want to say he has a lot of potential, but it's kind of like a reverse potential where he has already hit his peak and he's declined since then. So if he puts the time in to care about melee again and be good, then he'll be like one of the Infinity Stones in our group fight gauntlet. But yeah, he's a very strong player. He beat VG in a first to 10-2. He's muted, so he can't say shit about that, but it happened.
Did indeed happen. One thing I noticed is that when he was matched up against me, he would like S key and sort of wait for me to come in. And when I would switch on to you, he would just stab me and range me and stuff. Um, it didn't always work, but it was cool that you guys had developed a strategy like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure our voice comms were like, okay, I'm gonna bait you kill Ostro. Because I was playing like shit in that group fight anyways. Like I'm pretty sure I was negative up until the last round. So it was to the point where I was just diving into the middle section of your flank, and then he was just trading whoever target swapped me because whoever target swapped me was playing better than I was. So yeah, I think that uh, I'm not a flank player. I play poorly on flank, except for when I play flank with Benny. I think we have a good dynamic on it.
It was good to have some team synergy. Um, are you hoping that the Seven Foos participates in at least one regimental group fight per week?
We we did like a month ago, but I think it wasn't really like an objective. It was just like they just kept coming up and we just kept scheduling them. So I ideally like I would first I love group fighting, so I would not have any complaints whatsoever if we had one regimental group fight a week. But I understand that for some of our newer guys, managing burnout is important because I know you're just coming from the NR39 where you guys had like 2 or 3 group fights a week. We're not going to be doing that because um, I'm trying to figure out the. Uh,
Out, I guess, would be the best.
yeah, I guess we're trying to manage burnout as compared to practice. Um, so I'm obviously like we're gonna have minimum like it depends on if you count our internal group fight because I'm gonna be doing those bi-weekly. I think that it's great for people who are newer to the game. I mean, the last time you came, you dropped like 50. It's not for players like you, Reddish, me, and VG. It's for people who are newer to the game, who are still developing, who can gain experience against people of their own skill level, who can develop their skills against people who aren't just going to shit all over them, or who are going to take it seriously, who aren't just going to hold W. So I think that is going to be a key piece in developing some of our newer guys so that they're ready to play in regimental group fights. So I think that as long as we have a regimental group fight, I would love to have them weekly, but obviously we also have NWL coming up. So I think that the guys who do our competitive scheduling, I think it's Los and VG handle it. They're going to focus more on NWL practice matches. But if we could fit in one group fight every week, I think that'd be great. If not, I don't have any complaints about doing the bi-weekly. We'd still have the internal group fight to sate my group fight um, gauge. Desire? No, I don't want to say desire. That sounds weird.
Your fix.
Yeah, there you go. Get my fix.
Um, I think we had the 33rd in the previous internals. Are you looking for like another regiment to join it again tomorrow?
Yeah, the 33rd's coming back. The reason I let the 30 originally when I thought of it, it was going to be strictly internal. Um, and then the 33rd let me know that they were interested in it, and I thought that that'd be great because the 33rd isn't like up. They're just now trying to get interested in melee. And again, like I said before, it's a perfect opportunity for them to learn more group fight related melee because it's mainly against. I mean, when you look at the roster, it's like two, like there's Reddish on one team, you on the other team, and then me and VG are split opposite teams. Those are four players that regularly attend pickups and regularly attend group fights who have a pretty good idea of what they're doing. And then beyond that, no offense to anybody, beyond that, it's players who are not the most experienced, so it's good for them, and especially a regiment like the 33rd. I think they've done like I don't know how many actual group fight. I know you guys group fought them when you were in the NR39, but they don't have any. They don't have like a group fight team, and they're just trying to get into like melee shape so that they're not. I'm trying to pick my words. I don't want to insult anybody here.
I think we know the word that uh, is actually used for them on this melee Discord when it comes to the tier chart. But
Yeah,
I get what you're saying. Like they're not the most they're not group fighters, right?
yeah.
So it's
They're
like you have to build some. They're building something from scratch, I suppose.
Yeah, they're trying to get into melee, and I think that by attending our internal group, the other thing is that we're like I guess our regiments are kind of close. I guess it sounds weird to say, but like they come to our internal. We have internals on Wednesday, and they come to that. Um, so it's not like we're inviting just random regiments. They're people that we play with a lot, and that who are kind of involved in our community. So yeah, it's good for them to get some group fight experience when they're not going to get 15 one.
Yeah, I don't like when it comes to group fights. Like I don't think you should aim to stomp, and I don't think you should aim to get stomped. Because if you stomp a regiment, it's probably because like even heading into it, you knew you were gonna stomp them, right? And it kind of gives you like a hollow confidence, like ooh, like we stomped these guys, or we're gonna stomp everyone else now, right? And then if you get stomped, that can really affect your morale, right? And it can make people just not want to group fight ever again or not want to melee ever again, right? So like you always want to be like in that 15-10, 15 like 14-13 whatever uh, score. So like you're constantly like it's constantly competitive, right?
Yeah, our last two group fights were against the 47E, not the 47E, the 45E and the TRR. The TRR's B B question mark team, like their B team featuring a couple A team members. So it was like we lost 15-4 to the 45V, but like it was pretty much just our C team. We didn't have Gray, Benny. We didn't have Gray, Benny, Sin, Brad. We had half of our A team was missing. The only people that went positive were me and Reddish. Um and then against the TRR, we just got shit on. So our next group fight is going to be something that's going to be a lot closer. But yeah, like when you're 15 0ing, when you're 15 0ing someone, sure, it's fun at the beginning because you can just kind of do whatever, but you're not learning anything. Like for example, one of my one of my first group fights, the first time that we group fought the 63 EB team, we beat them 15-0. Like we 15-0'd them. This was one of my first group fights. I think I was 15-3. I did not learn anything because I was just holding W and just straight stabbing people. And then the next couple group fights, I went negative. So group fights against, I guess pickups is a perfect example. Usually pickups is closer. Like it's out of the ordinary when a match is when a match isn't like 15-10. Like for example, when Derp picks the entire 26th and then the game's 15-2 or some shit. So it's out of the ordinary to have a match like that. So yeah, I think that when a match is just a complete stomp, it's just not really a valuable experience for anybody. Like when we fought the 45E, we full stacked one flank. Like we had Reddish. It was like Reddish, VG, me, um, and some of our top players on one flank, and then the other flank was like just told to just not engage them whatsoever. Like the people on the other flank didn't learn anything. There's nothing you can learn when you're like it's your second group fight and you're matched up with Adam, Matt, Bob, and Pilot. So yeah, it's important to keep group fights competitive because you don't learn anything from 15-0ing or getting 15-0'd.
Who are some of the exciting up and comers that you've had your eye on?
I've noticed that someone like Charmy, he has a lot of potential, but he doesn't really care about melee. Um, I mean, I want to say Benny, but I don't know if I can call him an up and comer because no offense to him, he's past his prime. But if he cared again, he'd be an up and comer. Um, there's a lot of guys who, while on the scoreboard it might not look like much, they show a lot of promise. Like it's their there's a guy named Bubbles. He has been in like 3 group fights and his stats are nothing special, but I noticed that his movement and like the things that like when I ask him questions, he gives me the right answers. So I think that we have a lot of guys that come like 3 or 4 months when RGL starts up. I think we're going to have a very solid team.
You'll be able to test our new super roster tomorrow, I suppose. Hopefully, Sin and Brad will be there, but even without them, I think we'll still do very well.
Yeah, I think that we have a very. I mean, I think it's happening. I don't haven't been pinged yet, but yeah, I think we can beat Gordon, um, especially if Sin or Brad show up. I don't know about Brad, but I know that Sin is kind of coming back with like an asterisk. I've talked to him the last 2 days, so that's more than I've heard from him in the last couple months. So he's done with some school stuff, so he'll have more time. So hopefully he comes back.
You know, Sin has been really good for like a really long time. Um, and I keep trying to figure out like what makes him so good. Like we know he's a really good dueler, right? But in group fights, like what makes him so good? Because the only thing that I can put my head to is like he blocks. But he goes mid and he blocks. Like that's all anyone can ever say about him. But it's like you don't top frag by going mid and blocking, right? So like, have you seen Sin melee enough that you know like what exactly he does?
The last group fight that I played next to him was the 11 AG group fight, and to be honest, we just kind of ran through them. Um, it's one of those things where he's just he's just a good player. Like there isn't anything there isn't anything that he does that's different. Okay, well, there isn't anything he does that's like extraordinary. Like he's not Matt Bob where he just like turns on numlock and then just backstabs the whole team. But he has incredibly strong fundamentals and he keeps it simple. Like he blocks his attacks and he uses his stab. He uses his straight stabs. He knows where to go. He knows what to do. He just has that kind of melee IQ that he just knows what to do. He doesn't do anything too complex. He's one of those guys you can just rely on.
That is true. He he plays very simple. He doesn't do anything unnecessarily, right? Um, he's very focused, and when it comes to 2v1s, it's really weird because he'll like intentionally like stay in the middle and just like somehow block everything. Like he won't pull a reddish and try to like run around, right?
Yeah, he's just there's something there. The fact that nothing. Okay, I haven't meleeed with him that much because when I really started caring about melee is when he kind of like went into reserves and he got busy and he stopped coming to stuff. So I don't know. I don't understand his play style as much as people who were on, say, his HDL team know his play style, but he just has incredibly strong fundamentals and he just applies that. And that's what's so special about him is the fact that he's just, to put it simply, he's just a good player.
That is true. That is true. Number one HDL pick. Were you around for the HDL?
No. When did it end?
Early February.
Of 2021 or 2020?
21. Yeah.
Oh, I guess then I was around for it, but I didn't even know what was going on, to be honest. I didn't really start, I guess, caring about Melee until like late January, early February. Um, and then I really started to. I wasn't like somebody in the Melee community, I want to say, until like early April, I think. So I really started having the drive to get good early February, and then I finally, I guess, um, hit my stride would be the terminology like fairly recently, to be honest, within the last like 2 weeks. I didn't start becoming I wasn't somebody until like a couple weeks ago.
That's pretty recent. Um, so when it comes to like your melee goals, would you say you're prioritizing your personal goals to become better, or are you prioritizing the roster and getting the roster like good and competent and competitive?
I have absolutely no plans to leave the Seven Voos. So like there honestly I don't think that there's anything that could persuade me to transfer. Um so I think that I'm as much concerned with, obviously, like I care about me personally getting better, but ideally I would like the regiment to get better with me. So as I develop as an individual player, I'd like to use what I'm learning to help the regiment develop so that as a whole we can be more competitive, as opposed to just having one player that becomes standout, um, who just kind of does it by myself without helping anybody else, so that I'm just like another player instead of elevating the entire roster.
It is good to hear. Do you think the Seven Foos can be like on the caliber, like the same level as 63E, 45E, KRA? Maybe not TRR. TRR is a bit like crazy right now, but yeah, those three regiments. You think we can be on par with them?
I think when if the event ever comes where we field our entire A team, I think that we can compete. I think that, again, this is heavily reliant on if we can ever field our entire A team. I have never seen Reddish, Sin, and Brad, all three of them, come to a group fight before. But I think that if we can field our full A team, our 10 strongest players, I do think that we can compete with those three regiments. But again, that heavily relies on the fact if we can bring our full A team, which of my like 8 months of being in this regiment, I have not seen.
um, it's getting pretty late, so I think we're gonna wrap things up. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to, or like an individual or a group of people, just who have helped you or have been important to you, like on your Holdfast journey?
Um, yeah, there's VG, who's someone who's developed alongside of me. Um, there's Adam, who I think has provided me with a lot of knowledge. Also, he hosts pickups, so that's part of the reason why I've gotten good. Um, so yeah, there's VG and Adam are the primary sources in my brain. There's Reddish, um, who needs no explanation. Um, yeah, beyond those three, there's the people that come to pickups for making it a valuable experience. I've talked so much that I've now sobered up. Um, so yeah, those three people. There's VG, Adam, and the people who come to pickups who make it a valuable experience.
Awesome. Do you have any final words of wisdom?
Um, no, I do not. It's 2:30 in the morning, and to be honest, I've kind of like to go to bed.
He wants to go to bed. This has been the Danny G interview. Thank you, Danny G.
Yep. Thank you for interviewing me.
Goodbye, everyone.
All right. Goodbye.